Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk. We're going to work with scales, thinking about 7-note scales and four different types, which you could think of as a collection of notes, and you could build any modes out of them. But these are four very useful scales for really learning anything, or any tune. But even when you're playing melody, so I was, for example, working with our daughter on some violin audition material, and working through some sight reading and finding these scales, which we'll talk about today, just kind of coming up even in small numbers. It might be 5 out of 7 or 4 out of 7 notes, and how things will change and evolve. And so these 4 scales is what we're gonna talk about. But I'll start out by doing a little playing and get us all kind of warmed up on things. So working with Days of Wine and Roses today. I am going to work in some other tunes in videos to come and talks to come. everybody. Still kind of working towards doing some things with the backing tracks where I can kind of fade in, fade out, but gotta kind of work towards figuring that out. But anyhow, so the scales that we're going to talk about, let's take an F major scale to begin with, and think about how that all comes together. Okay. All right, so we have a series of steps, and that's going to be kind of the foundation of what we're working with this tune, since we're in the key of F. All right, so a lot of chords that's getting that pull. Think of like a pull of notes. A lot of chords in the song that's gonna fit just great. So whatever note you start on, still gonna be the same kind of group of notes, and that gets into these modes and all that folks kind of generally work on. In this context, we're thinking of them as kind of chord scales, like how do you take an F major scale and apply it to F major chord, and then how do you take those same group of notes, and how do you apply that to the G minor, and so on. So E minor 7 flat 5 comes up. So you don't really even have to play it from the root note, although that's a good exercise. We need to make sure we hear it from the root note, but when you're improvising, you could choose any one of those notes, right, to start from, and maybe not even play whatever the root note is. Right. So those are going to work for quite a lot of the chords and progressions in this tune. Now you might opt for other things when you play certain chords, even in the scale, so, or even in the that are included in the key of F. So for a D minor, maybe you would play a natural, B natural at some point. Now there are moments there in the tune where you'd really want to play a B natural, because this progression kind of suggests it, like we talked about yesterday. So there's a moment where we have say D minor and then G, right? So there we definitely want a B natural. Now it's pulling from the same type of scale, but it's a closely related key area, so the key of no sharps and no flats, right? So it's just one accidental difference. So all of that kind of falls under the kind of umbrella of the major scale and its modes. Now, there are other really kind of interesting things that we can do for even chords that are included in the key area, but let's talk about some real kind of practical things that kind of need to happen in the tune. So our second chord in this is this E flat 9. I'm playing E flat 9 right now. So you can take different perspectives on this, but one perspective is to take chord and see if you can keep as many of the notes as possible as close as possible to the original key. So E flat is the root note, so that's not in the keys. Not much we can do about that. But any kind of going up: E flat, F, G, A, okay, B flat, C. All right, now D flat is another tone that is required for this chord sound. So we're gonna need a D flat. So we need D flat and E flat. So you could take the F major scale and change those two notes to flat. So change the E natural to a flat and the D natural to a flat. Keep everything else kind of the same. And what we get there is something called Lydian dominant. And that's coming out of the melodic minor scale, B flat, melodic minor scale. So that's the second scale that you'll find a lot of use for when you play, especially, jazz progressions or jazz tunes, standards. So you get really a lot of mileage out of that particular type of scale. So that's one example there. Let's take, just kind of jumping around here. Let's take E minor 7 flat 5. So we could of course use Locrian, but who knows, maybe you want to try the natural 9 versus the flat 9. So then again, we get into one of the modes of the melodic minor. All right, so that's the second one that I would say to kind of check out and work on. To begin with that, you can take any one of the chords. Maybe even try the relative minor, D minor here, and practice playing the melodic minor on that, just as a sort of general practice, not necessarily applying that to this tune. Okay. All right, so let's maybe do a little more playing, and then we'll come back to the other two that I mentioned. So, or that I will mention, that I haven't mentioned yet. All right, so let's do a little more playing on this tune, and so set up more of a Latin kind of feel here. I think I'm going to change the bass over to more of an electric kind of sound. Okay, and play a touch quicker here. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other type scales that you'll find useful for really just any tune. But we'll find some spots to use it on this particular tune. So let's take a moment where we play E minor 7 flat 5 to A7, say flat 9. So that's a pretty common progression. So it's 2 5 going to the relative minor, which becomes a 2 chord of its own. But at that moment where we play the A7, let's take a look at this type scale. Okay, which we can call Phrygian dominant. So we talked about Lydian dominant earlier. This one we're calling Phrygian dominant. If we were to take a look at the A minor, chord in this key, key of 1 flat, just kind of survey these notes. We would get the Phrygian mode. Okay, and remember, we're not really thinking about modes too much, but we're thinking about chord scales. So we're using the names of some of these as a shorthand so that we don't have to spell out 7 notes every time. So I say Phrygian dominant. Well, what would make this scale into a dominant 7? Well, if we took the C, this kind of ties into what we talked about earlier with trying to keep all the notes pretty close to the original key and then adjusting what we need to make our chord sound. So instead of C natural, C sharp. Okay, so this is the third type of scale that I want to talk about here, which is the harmonic minor. Okay, and this coming back here to this D minor, because this is a good place in general to practice these, which is to play the melodic minor and the harmonic minor from the relative minor or from the 6th chord in major. So F major, the 6th chord would be D minor. Okay. So practice the melodic minor and the harmonic minor there. All right, so we have the F major. Let's take kind of a similar concept. So what if we have a dominant, or we do have a dominant 7 at some point, G7. What if we took that and played this note? So let's say we play this chord here. So this gives us a 13 and a flat 9. Okay. And it just dials up the dissonance a little bit, and this flat 9 will want to resolve into the 5th, right? So then we're looking at a scale that's pretty much similar to the F, but has this D flat rather than a D natural. Okay, and so that's coming out of the harmonic major. It's kind of interesting, to think about the D harmonic minor using this tone, the C sharp, and then harmonic major using the same tone but replacing a different tone. So In the case of harmonic major, the flat six, we've replaced the six, right? And the harmonic minor, D harmonic minor, but then we've replaced the C with the C sharp, so we have a major seven. It's kind of interesting, that being the same tone, and each one in its own context replaces a different note. So, take from that, I guess, what you will, but I find that a little bit interesting. So that covers our four types of scales, right? That we can really utilize to give us some structure, give us some framework, give us some options really on each chord. So we might not necessarily want to think, okay, I have to plug in these 7 notes to this given chord. I wouldn't recommend that. But we can use these as a reference point and say, oh, well, maybe my line is going in this other way, so maybe I'll choose a different one. And then you could even work backwards with it and say, oh, I wonder if that was one of those 4 scales that ended up making its way into the sound that you're playing. All right, so I'll go out with a little bit more of the Days of Wine and Roses. Let's take it up a little bit, and go back to a swing feel, and then we'll call it a day for today here. thanks for checking out this live video, and this will be recorded as a podcast. So hope you all enjoy it, and thanks for checking this out. You can find out more if you are listening to this on the podcast. YouTube.com/Fretprints, and you can go to fretprints.com. If you are already a member and enjoying the videos, really appreciate your support, and let me know if you have any questions on any material. Thanks.